Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world.
Okay, so for this one, we're going to be doing a structural analysis of a really famous story. And just so we're all on the same page, this is not a summary, and it's definitely not advice. What we're doing here is a deep dive into the logic that shapes how we see things. All right, let's jump in.
It all kicks off with this really simple test. Look at the left. What do you see? Well, grown-ups almost always say it's a hat. But on the right, you see what it actually is? A boa constrictor digesting an elephant. And that disconnect, right there, that's our key. It unlocks a much, much bigger system of perception.
So we're going to use this story as a kind of allegory, a way to deconstruct the systems that literally teach us to see the hat instead of the elephant. We'll look at first the system of grown-ups, then the incentives that drive it, what matters. After that, the outcomes, what gets left out. We'll touch on why these systems stick around, and finally, we'll connect it all back to our interconnected world.
All right, first up, the system itself. Let's call it the system of grown-ups. And at its core, it's a world built entirely on stuff you can measure, things you can count and neatly stack into a hierarchy. And you see this right from the get-go. The system lays out its values immediately. When the kid's imaginative drawing isn't understood, nobody asks him to explain it. No, he's just told to focus on sensible things, geography, history, arithmetic. Things that are quantifiable, fact-based, and orderly. Imagination, that's just a distraction from what's supposedly important. So let's put a formal name on this. Adult institutional logic. It's basically a value system where worth of an object or even a person is determined almost entirely by what you can measure, count, and categorize. If you can't plug it into a spreadsheet, well, it pretty much gets dismissed.
Okay, so how does a logic like this even keep going? Well, like any system, right, it runs on incentives. It rewards certain behaviors. And this one, it rewards what's quantifiable and pretty much dismisses anything relational or imaginative.
And you can see the system's priorities in the kind of questions people ask. To get to know a new friend, grown-ups don't ask, what does his voice sound like, or what are his dreams? Instead, they want data points. How old is he? How many brothers? How much does he weigh? It's like they need the numbers to feel like they actually understand.
Yeah, and this next part just illustrates it perfectly. If you tell them about a beautiful house made of rosy brick, it means nothing. But give them a price tag, a single number, like $20,000, and then they can react. Oh, what a pretty house. That number completely replaces the need to actually see or feel its beauty.
The ultimate product of this whole system? It's the businessman. He is totally obsessed with what he calls matters of consequence. And what does that actually mean? For him, it's counting and owning the stars. Think about it. He doesn't create anything. He doesn't appreciate anything. He just adds up figures. And in this system, that's what makes him a serious and important man.
So when you have a system that only rewards measurement, you're going to get certain outcomes, right? It's inevitable. It pushes everything that can't be measured to the sidelines. Things like friendship, devotion, responsibility.
Here's a good way to think about it, a kind of structural metaphor. Picture this adult perception as a balance sheet. Now, this balance sheet is amazing at recording visible, quantifiable assets, money, property, statistics. But it has no columns for the intangible stuff. Friendship, responsibility, love, they just don't make it onto the ledger. In this type of accounting, they literally have zero value.
The geographer character is a perfect example of this in action. He's only interested in what he calls eternal things. Mountains, oceans, stuff that lasts. So when asked about flowers, he says he won't record them. Why? Because they're ephemeral. They're temporary. Their value can't be fixed and cataloged forever. So on his balance sheet, they might as well not even exist. And then, bam, you get the direct contrast with the fox. The fox introduces a totally different value system. He explains that what really matters is to tame something, to establish ties. This whole process of building a relationship, that's an investment of time and emotion. It creates a value that's completely invisible, totally unquantifiable. And, as the fox points out, it's something that's too often neglected.
So this brings up a really important question, right? If this system is so obviously limiting, why is it everywhere? Why do these kinds of structures stick around?
Well, the bottom line is that these systems survive because they are incredibly useful for one thing: administration. They create order out of chaos, they make everything comparable so you can have rankings and evaluations, they give you a sense of predictability. And for any big institution, that kind of administrative clarity is just invaluable, even if it means completely missing what's truly essential.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. Let's connect this little allegory back to our own world, to our own systems. Because this isn't just a story about some fictional planet, is it? It's really a map for understanding the logic that governs so much of our reality.
I mean, just think about it for a second. This whole logic of prioritizing what's measurable, that's the bedrock of our economic productivity culture, where your worth is tied to your output. It's the foundation for bureaucratic evaluations, for standardized testing in our schools, for data-driven governance. We are all living inside this system of grown-ups.
And this right here brings us to the core idea. This is the crisis in perception. It's what happens when the very act of measurement obscures the reality of meaning. It's when our tools for seeing the world actually end up hiding what's really there. We end up seeing the price of the house, but not its beauty. We see the hat, but we completely miss the elephant. Ultimately, the story gives us that simple but really powerful secret from the fox. The way out of this crisis of perception isn't to just throw away measurement altogether. It's about remembering its limits. It's about remembering that what is most essential, the thing that gives life its real value, is so often invisible to the eye.
Crisis in perception examines how systems shape belief and how better tools help us see clearly.
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer, audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description.
If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.